Good morning. It's time for another edition of the PreMarket PulseScan with yours truly, Dex, the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live for PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave price trigger reports that we place in your hands each and every day. Hopefully everyone had a wonderful weekend, and hopefully everyone is ready to start to kick off a new week. That would be pretty dope, wouldn't it? If you were ready, if you were rested, if you really did have a good weekend. Hopefully you kicked back and you rewinded and you was just chilling, just defragmenting your brain and your emotions from all of the ridiculous news that seems to never end. So hopefully you've been all right with that. Hopefully you were able to take advantage of so many brand new video game releases, man. It just seems like they dropping new AAA titles every week, man. All right, so yeah. What a year this is shaping up to be. I just don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, welcome to United States of totalitarianism. That's where we are. This is what's going on. And not only that, but it's looking like the castle in the air could be falling. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the world, and we got to start to prepare ourselves. Because, like they said, winter is coming. That's right, winter is coming. Are you prepared? Are you prepared for winter to arrive? It's funny because, as you know, August is like the hottest month in the world, in the year. And we've been having unseasonably mild temperatures last couple of days. I think that's due to the tropical storm, hurricane thing, whatever. But now I think we're going to get back to normal today. I think it's supposed to be back to normality. Back to life, back to reality. So we shall see. Supposed to be like pretty much in the about 90 degrees here in the DMV. Yes, that stands for the demilitarized zone of the nation's capital. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if we get back to some kind of normalcy and common sense around here. It seems like the equity market is that gift that keeps on giving. It doesn't want to go away. It doesn't want to stop. It wants to continue to bless anyone long and punish anyone short. It's just one of those phenomenons that doesn't come around that often. Psych. It's been coming around for the last 20 years. It's been nonstop, just nonstop bull market in equities. And that is mainly because people keep buying. Wrong answer. No, it's not because people keep buying. It's because the Fed keeps buying. That's right. The Federal Reserve turned on their trading terminal, their trading computer, and they have been going ham on the mouse clicker. They have been just tearing that mouse clicker up. Buy here, buy that. Buying up all the sectors, backstopping the market. The heck with Joe and Jane Citizen. Forget them. They on their own. Let them fend for themselves. But this market, you better not ever let nothing happen to that market. Where have we heard that line before? I know. It was Talkie Tina. Yeah. Remember that one? The little doll? She told Kojak, she was like, you better not ever let anything happen to me, or I'm going to kill you. And she ended up killing him anyway. Spoiler alert. So, where does that leave us? First and foremost, I think that leaves us to what we came here to do, and that's look at these markets. So let's go ahead and look at these markets. In the overnight, it looks a little bit quiet like this. Dow futures up 112 points at 27,407. The NASDAQ 100 is up 93 3/4 points at 11,227 half. Even the S&P 500 is up 16.5 points at 3378 even. The Russell My Hustle is up about 7 points at 1579.9. You got the Bitcoin Futures Composite Index up 105 bucks, trading over the 12,000 mark. We're sitting at 12,040. Nat gas unchanged at $2.35. We got crude oil at $42 a barrel even, unchanged. We got the long bond up 16.30 seconds, trading at 178.11. That's 178 and 11.30 seconds. We got gold futures up $21.20. Make that $21.30 now, trading at $1,971.20 an ounce. We got silver up strong, up $1.32, trading at $27.40 an ounce. However, gold and silver are still off from their previous week's highs, so that should be noted. U.S. dollar index is down 12 pips at 92.97. The euro dollar is up 16 pips at 118.61. The Aussie is up 24 pips at 71.98. Euro yen off 18 pips at 125.96. Canadian dollar off 37 pips at 132.29. Dollar yen down 35 pips at 106.24. And the Kiwi is off 8 pips at 65.31. Has anyone noticed anything what I just gave you? Pretty much every currency is down, including the US dollar. With only two bright spots is the Aussie and the euro dollar. Everything else is down, including the US dollar. Isn't that interesting? All right, looking at food. Guess which sleeping giant has awoken? Soybeans, or should I say the S&P 500 soybean? Because soybeans, well, historically, back in the day, for those that are uninitiated, soybeans, crude oil, and the E-mini S&P 500 had very similar, if not identical, trading patterns. And yes, all three markets were viable day trading candidates. And so we did do that. That's right. With the exception of every now and then, beans will go lock limit on you and you could find yourself on the wrong side of that trade. But hey, that was the fun in it. Corn is up 4 points at 342, with beans up 8.25 points at 907. Broke that $9 threshold finally. And corn finally got that bid. Remember, we had that rally alert and it was just chilling, didn't know what it wanted to do. It was scared of life. And then it said, forget it. You only live once, and it just broke out. And wheat now is up 5.25 points at 505.25. That's right. Finally broke the $5 threshold. Wheat is finally waking up as well. It's about time, man. You had these rally alerts just sitting out here waiting. But, you know, that's where patience comes in. Sometimes you have to let the market come to you. You have to let the trade develop, and then you're rewarded. Let's look at the overnight market news. So right now we got President Trump issuing a new executive order on Friday seeking to force ByteDance to sell popular viral video app TikTok. Trump's order aims to retroactivate and invalidate ByteDance's purchase of musical.ly, the app that eventually became TikTok, citing national security concerns. TikTok's U.S. employees are preparing to sue the Trump administration over fears they won't get paid if the app is banned. The president signed an executive order banning U.S. individuals and firms from doing business with TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance. This is just so weird that the government can prevent you from using an app. You'd be like, I didn't agree to that. So why? What did they have to do with the buying and selling of and trading of others? What? That's not the role of the government. Talking about how is it national security? I don't. What is everything national security? Because you're having a trade war with China, so now we can't use China's TikTok app. But yet you let China buy up and own the United States. They've been buying real estate for the past 10 plus years. In some cases, they own entire communities. Oh, but we're not supposed to talk about that. We're not supposed to talk about how Chinese how Chinese has bought up all the U.S. debt as well. We're not supposed to talk about that either. And how they're backstopping the bond market. We're not supposed to talk about that either. This is so weird and very uncomfortable. Facebook said Apple refused to reduce its App Store fee for the social network's new paid feature that could help small business owners during the pandemic. Facebook executive Mr. Sumo also told Bloomberg that the social media giant was calling Apple out so that they can join us and end up waiving their fees. The political espionage of corporations is startling. Facebook is treating India's ruling BJP favorably, allowing politicians to post content calling for Muslims to be shot without repercussions, according to a Wall Street Journal investigation. The journal found one particular Indian executive, Mr. Das, opposed applying Facebook's hate speech rules to Hindu nationalists. Again, since when did corporations, for-profit corporations, become so political? This is absolutely Alice in Wonderland. There's no other analogy I can draw. This is Alice in Wonderland. How deep does the rabbit hole go? Michigan is devoting a 40-mile stretch of highway to testing self-driving cars. The project marks the first time public infrastructure has been dedicated to the pursuit of developing driverless vehicles. Okay, I thought Michigan was bankrupt because of the whole Detroit situation and the auto manufacturers, burning rubber away from Detroit. So I thought Detroit became human. Dun-dun-dun. Little corny thing there. But yeah, I thought Michigan was broke. What happened? What happened? How can they afford to take care of a 40-mile stretch of infrastructure? Isn't like 90% of the state unemployed? Where are they getting the money from? I know where they get it from. I know where they're getting it from. Let me guess. They sat down with the Fed chairman and he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna hook you up. I'm gonna give you $40 billion. That's $1 billion per mile of road that you set aside to do this project." It gets weirder. I mean, Alice in Wonderland is getting weirder. Streaming app QB has boosted TV and YouTube advertising to promote its new wave of programming. The ad push comes as QB has been retooling its platform and approach following a rough start in April. Self-driving cars could boost margins for Uber and Lyft and open the door to competition from Amazon and Tesla. Major tech and automotive companies like Alphabet, Amazon, and Tesla are developing automated driving systems they plan to integrate into robo-taxi services. We are now finally at RoboCop. Welcome to RoboCop of America. Now, you guys know that Uber and Lyft have been, they really have walked through the fire. All right. The taxi companies all over the world have been saying we don't want Uber and Lyft, and then they came up with all these stories of serial killers driving for Uber and Lyft and eating people in between fares, and sticking up people and driving their Ubers and Lyfts into federal buildings and blowing it up. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I've gone too far. That was Tim McVeigh, who was also an agent of the Fed. I'm sorry. I get twisted sometimes with all these informations. Okay, so Now it's okay, and you're gonna leave Uber and Lyft alone because now you've opened the door for Google and Amazon and Tesla to come in and take over that market. This is that down low, you know, CIA type operational thing. They first evoke and mind meld you against Uber and Lyft. Then they bring in Tesla and Alphabet and Amazon while you're paying attention to the whole Uber and Lyft nonsense. So now they're gonna bring these three tech giants in to take over that industry. They let Uber and Lyft take all the heat and do all the heavy lifting, and now here they come after they done built out the infrastructure. Very interesting. Can you see how they're building out this whole warehouse? Absolutely amazing. I tell you, this Alice in Wonderland tunnel just keeps on getting deeper and deeper. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey says wanting to work 20 hours a day to be like Elon Musk is, you know what? Dorsey said the key is to figure out what works for you instead of reading up on what's worked for other famous founders. I don't even understand what he's talking about. I have no idea what he's talking about. I don't. I don't understand what he's talking about. I think that is a little, you know, a roundabout backdoor way, sneaking in a little plug for, um, that basic universal income. To be quite honest with you, yeah, just look at the tone of that. European club promoters created a viral nightclub in Berlin and turned away 40,000 people on the first night. The virtual venue boasts a 360-degree video dance floor with the thumping bass of a techno set and visuals that range from futuristic greenhouse to industrial tunnels filled with laser lights. Wow. New data from Social Baker suggests that micro influencers make up the majority of brand collaborations on Instagram. And a growing trend in influencer marketing, many brands are hiring influencers with small but loyal followings. Oh, so now you're starting to recognize the little guys. Very interesting. So they defecate on the little guy, and then when they find out, hey, the little guy makes up 95% of what's out there, and we're missing out. We could be making, 4 times our investment. Now they want to holler at you. When at first you were too small and insignificant, now they're saying, "Oh no, well, you had, we love you." Nonsense, man. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. They just don't cease it with the nonsense. Good grief. All right, so where does that leave us? Heck if I know. Don't ask me. I just work here. All right. But there are some interesting places that these roads lead to. All right. Yeah. There is, you know how they like to make fun of people like us who do our research and like to look into things and not just believe whatever the government tells us, like good little stepchildren who have been beaten to death within an inch of life so many times for the smallest of infractions. Well, we got to deal with it. What is all this really leading us to? Remember when I did my documentary, There Is No Collapse? And I I really caused a lot of groundswell with that. People were attacking on every side, and I ruffled many feathers with that. So if you haven't taken a watch to that, it's a long documentary, but it's worth every minute. It's called There Is No Collapse. I think you'll peep game real quick. And then I followed it up with instead of making it, I could have just combined both of them, made one just ginormous documentary. But I followed it up with part two, which is the Fed versus Bitcoin and the central banks versus the blockchain. And when I followed up that part two documentary, people thought I was nuts. It was 2016. They thought I was nuts. They said this will never happen. They said it can't happen. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. And then now here we are, and it's not only possible, but it's happening. You're saying, what in the world is he talking about? What is he talking about? Well, excuse me. Glad you asked that question. So, not only do we come into today with a pretty much quiet, tame day, looks like in the making. I don't expect too much to happen in these markets. I don't. I see basically like an inside day, if not a narrow range day altogether. In majority of these markets, I don't really see too much happening. But we do have rally and crash alerts. There's your opening bell in case those you guys need to play some tickets, which you should have done already. But hey, I'm not judging. So silver has a crash alert for today. You know that because you got the reports on Sunday. You know that the E-mini S&P 500 is also registering a crash alert to start the week off. You also know that soybeans and corn had crash alerts. You knew that. And you also knew that the euro yen came in today with a crash alert along with the Canadian dollar with a rally alert. So you knew you had a little handful of alerts coming in today. What does that mean? Oh, don't forget the Mexican peso, by the way. What it means is a lot of times if you start the week off with an alert, chances are you're going to follow up on the following day. If it doesn't happen, you're going to get an alert. You're going to get a move in the opposite direction. Now, that's not all the time, but it is a lot of the time. Okay. So today, Mondays are the days that set up pretty much everything else. Okay. Just figured I would throw that out there to you so you could get some understanding behind that. So coming into it, I think that's where we're going to go. So you got to keep your eyes and ears open on today. Today is going to be a crucial, critical day. The trading day is just starting, but you have no idea where we're going to go. But in some things, we do know where we're about to go. How about direct money transfers? How about the Federal Reserve creating direct money transfers? What in the world is that? Well, about a week ago, there was an interview with two former Fed economists, Simon Potter, who was also the former head of the Fed's plunge protection team for many years, and Julia Coronado, who have tremendous impact on influence and prevailing thinking at the Federal Reserve, and who also hinted at the Fed's last-ditch reflationary strategy wiring digital money into America's financial apps, bypassing the reserve system entirely and sparking a influence. Let me get some water. Excuse me. Excuse me. Woo. Okay. Now, the two propose creating a monetary tool that they call recession insurance bonds, which draw on some of the advances in digital payments, which will be wired instantaneously to Americans. Now, one of the issues Congress had in passing the CARES Act is identifying who's got mainly tip income and who doesn't have sick days. If society wanted, you could use large data sets to direct fiscal transfers to those people, according to the Bloomberg interview. Now, while this idea may have seemed absolutely ludicrous as recently as just a year ago, the fact that the just as ludicrous helicopter money is now de facto policy means the direct deposits of cash by the Fed into individual accounts is becoming increasingly probable. The only thing missing is the digital currency that will be used by the central bank. Addressing this issue, Federal Reserve Governor Lael Brainard hinted once again at the coming monetary revolution when she said that the Fed is studying the opportunities and challenges presented by the central bank digital currencies, plural. To enhance the Federal Reserve's understanding of digital currencies, The Federal Reserve Bank of Boston is collaborating with researchers at the MIT Institute of Technology in a multi-year effort to build and test a hypothetical digital currency oriented to central bank uses. Did I not call this in 2016? I believe I did. I was the only one calling for this, while everyone else was saying how Bitcoin was a fad and that it was ludicrous and ridiculous, and the government was ignoring it, while the government was steadily calling cryptocurrencies not investments, not assets, not investments, not assets, not currencies, not money. Now they switched to cryptocurrency is the future. Cryptocurrency is currency. Cryptocurrency is the new fiat. When I sounded that alarm back in 2016, I was the voice, lonely voice, crying in the wilderness, living off of locusts and wild honey, dressed in fur that was very uncomfortable. Yeah, I was the John the Baptist of this particular situation. And I have to say, you need to really have a long-term memory, because it's quickly how people forget. You see, the objectives of their research and experimentation across the Federal Reserve System is to assess the safety and the efficiency of digital currency systems, to inform their understanding of private sector arrangements, and to give them hands-on experience to understand the opportunities and limitations of possible technologies for digital forms of central bank money. But hey, I thought you said the crypto market was it was only used and created for gangsters and thugs and drug dealers and prostitution rings. Oh, you're right. Yeah. What did you think the USA was? But these efforts are intended to ensure that they fully understand the potential as well as the associated risk and possible unintended consequences that new technologies present in the payments arena. In other words, they're trying to figure out a way to use it to control every area of your life and your virtual existence. Like that pun, virtual is, All right, anyway. In prepared remarks of a speech titled Simply Enough, an update on digital currencies, and prepared for delivery at the Fed Technology event, Bernard said that a significant policy process would be required to consider the issuance of a CBDC, along with the extensive deliberations and engagement with other parts of the federal government and a broad set of other stakeholders. Nice way to say the central bank and the other private controlling families, talking about the Rothschilds and everybody else, all of the shadowy figures that control and run the central bank system. The punchline is, it is important to understand how the existing provisions of the Federal Reserve Act with regard to currency issuance apply to a CBDC and whether the CBDC would have legal tender status depending on the design. Of course it would. The Federal Reserve has not made a decision whether to undertake such a significant policy process, as we're taking the time and effort to understand the significant implications of digital currencies and CBDCs around the globe. In other words, we already have done all this. We prepared this 20 years ago. We're just waiting for the appropriate time to roll it out. That's what that means. They've already done all of this. By the time they're telling you, it's already a done deal. Old news. So what would prompt the Fed to undertake this significant policy process? Why, another crisis, of course. Winter is coming. For those who missed out on the interview with Potter and Carano, which lays out quite clearly just what is coming and what the motive is behind the Fed's fascination with digital currencies, here are some excerpts from the August 3rd post. One more time, one more again. All right. We read with great interest a Bloomberg interview published on Saturday with two former central bank officials, Simon Potter, who led the Federal Reserve Bank of New York's market group, i.e., he was the head of the Fed's plunge protection team for years, and Julia Coronado, who spent 8 years as an economist for the Fed's Board of Governors, who are among the innovators brainstorming solutions to what has emerged as the most crucial and difficult problem facing the Fed. Get money swiftly to people who need it and most in a crisis. No, that is not your advance directive. Your advance directive will be to cut off, shut off, to deny, to freeze assets of people who you don't like or who are causing you a lot of political harm. The response was striking. The two proposed creating a monetary tool they call recession insurance bonds, which draw on some of the advances in digital payments, which will be wired instantly to Americans. See, they have to give you a really, really, really nice and cuddly and fluffy reason for doing what they are doing when it is not the main purpose of them doing what they are doing. They are slick savages, are they not? They know exactly what they're doing. All right, they know exactly what they're doing. You and I are just not aware of it. What does this really roll out to, though? What does this really amount to? Well, it amounts to the U.S. becoming full-blown fascist, totalitarian, and military. You've combined fascism, totalitarianism, and militarism into one big Easter egg. All right, that's what this is. Yep, in case you didn't know, this is what it is. Now, let's put on your gloves and your hip boots and get ready to wade through the murky waters of this bureaucracy, of this incredible prison planet that we are living on, that most people have no idea that they were born into. And in this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. And that is a famous quote from Ronald Reagan. You see, there's a pattern emerging. If you pay close attention, you'll catch it instead of missing it. Civil discontent leads to civil unrest, which leads to protests and counter-protest. See the vicious cycle? Without fail, what should be an exercise in how to peacefully disagree turns ugly the moment looting, vandalism, violence, intimidation tactics, and rioting are introduced into the equation. Instead of restoring order, local police stand down. Tensions rise, violence escalates, and federal armies move in. Coincidence? I think not. There's a video that was on YouTube showing what happened. I want to say it was like the 1930s, 20s or 30s. I know it was a very long time ago. Basically, and the video should still be up there. The video shows, excuse me, it shows the veterans coming back from war or something, some type of military action. And they all signed up to do it because the government promised them that they would take care of them and do all these good things when they got back. Well, when they got back, the government pretended like they didn't know what they were talking about and refused to pay them a dime. So they all protested, came down to the Capitol, and they pitched up tents and said, we're not going anywhere until we get what's coming to us. And the president, after he had enough, called in the military, and they burned all their tents, and it was just ridiculous. It was crazy. And this is what they did to their veterans that came home from war. He said, I'm not giving you nothing, after he lied to them to get them over there. Because what people didn't know is that the president is not in control. The central bank, the Federal Reserve, is the thing that is in control. And it's really, really messed up. So what do? You have to come to terms with it. But by you do that, it's too late. It's too late. You see, this was the blueprint used 3 years ago in Charlottesville, Virginia, back in 2017, when the city, regularly cited as being one of the happiest places in America, became ground zero for a heated war of words and actions over racism, sanitizing history, extremism, both right and left, political correctness, hate speech, partisan policies, and a growing fear that violent words will end in violent actions. All right. But see, this was a setup. All right. Local police deliberately engineered a situation in which protesters would confront each other. Tensions would bubble over, and things would turn just violent enough to call in the bigger guns. Not to mention, this was all financed by your boy George Soros. Not to mention, the city of Charlottesville is and was an Agenda 21 city. Yep. For those of you who are uninitiated, an Agenda 21 community, which they're all over, or all around the United States, are places that have been sanctioned for, I would like to call, shadow government operations. All right. So if they want to do mock situations to push further their agenda, Charlottesville is one of the locations they could do that in. I'm sure if you were to look it up and do a little digging, you would probably find Minnesota on that list as well, and Florida, and California, yeah, and New York. Yeah, there's a lot of municipalities on that list. That list was published around 2010, 2011-ish, maybe even 2009. I know it goes back. And it had all the municipalities in the country that were Agenda 21 locations. And what that meant was the military, the government, the shadowy figures could do these experiments, these things to bring about whatever agenda they're trying to push. So it's not a small thing that these things have happened. All right. So we know it was a setup. But it's the same blueprint that's being used right now. Okay? That's right. Same blueprint. Wash, rinse, repeat. All right? They never let anything go to waste. Good crises go to waste. They create these things, and then they come up with, a way to push their agendas even further. And it's just a thing. It's just what they do. And people have very short attention spans, very short attention spans, and they don't remember these things, but I do. See, in Charlottesville, as in so many parts of the country right now, the conflict was over how to reconcile the nation's checkered past, particularly as it relates to slavery, with the push to sanitize the environment of anything, words, and images that might cause offense, especially if it's a Confederate flag or a monument. The fear of offense prompted the Charlottesville City Council to get rid of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee that had graced one of its public parks for 82 years. Now, that's when everything went haywire. In attempting to pacify one particular vocal and righteously offended group while railroading over the concerns of those with alternative viewpoints, Charlottesville attracted the unwanted attention of the Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazis, and the alternative right. all of whom descended on the little college town with the intention of exercising their First Amendment right to be disagreeable, to assemble, and to protest. Now, when put to the test, Charlottesville did not handle things well at all. On August the 12th of 2017, what should have been an exercise in free speech quickly became a brawl that left one person dead and dozens more injured. All right. Now, as the New York Times reported, protesters began to mace one another, throwing water bottles and urine-filled balloons, some of which hit reporters, and beating each other with flagpoles, clubs, and makeshift weapons. Before long, the downtown area was a melee. People were ducking and covering with a consistent stream of projectiles whizzing by their face, and the air was filled with the sounds of fists and sticks against the flesh. And then there was the police, who were supposed to uphold the law and prevent violence. They failed to do either. All right. Indeed, a 220-page post-mortem of the protests and the Charlottesville's government response by former U.S. Attorney Timothy J. Heafy merely corroborates the worst fears about what drives the government at all levels: power, money, ego, politics, and ambition. When presented with a situation in which the government and its agents were tasked with protecting free speech and safety, he concluded that the city of Charlottesville protected neither free expression nor public safety. He continues, quote, "The city was unable to protect the right of free expression and facilitate the permit holder's offensive speech. This represents a failure of one of government's core functions, the protection of fundamental rights. Law enforcement also failed to maintain order and protect citizens from harm, injury, and death. Charlottesville preserved neither of those principles on August the 12th, which had led to deep distrust of government within this community." Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Talk about distrust. We could do an hour-long topic just on that alone, but we will not. Let's take a quick break. I need to take some water here and get my throat together. So be right back. All right, I think I'm good to go now. Good to go. Okay, so where were we? Okay, so despite the fact that 1,000 first responders, including 300 state police troopers and members of the National Guard, yes, the National Guard, many of whom had been preparing for the downtown rally for months, have been called on to work the event, despite the fact that police in riot gear surrounded Emancipation Park on three sides, and despite the fact that Charlottesville had what reporter David Graham referred to as a dress rehearsal of sorts, A month earlier, when 30 members of the Ku Klux Klan were confronted by 1,000 counter-protesters, police failed to do their jobs. In fact, the Washington Post reports police seemed to watch as groups beat each other with sticks and bludgeoned one another with shields. At one point, police appeared to retreat and then watch the beatings before eventually moving in the free-for-all, make arrests, and tend to the injured. Police stood by as mayhem mounted in Charlottesville, reported ProPublica. Instead of establishing clear boundaries, buffer zones between the warring groups and protecting the First Amendment's rights of the protesters, police established two entrances into the permit areas of the park and created barriers guiding rallygoers single file into the park, past lines of white nationalists and Antifa counter-protesters. Incredibly, the first signs of open violence broke out. Heafy reports that the police chief allegedly instructed his staff to let them fight. It will make it easier to declare an unlawful assembly. Did you hear that? Very coordinated, very staged event. They knew exactly what they were doing, and the protesters were paid. All right, let's just keep it 100. Now, this is not much different from what's happening now on the present day on our national scene. Commissioned by the city of Charlottesville, the Heafy report was intended to be an independent investigation of what went right and what went wrong in the government's handling of the protests. Heafy found very little to commend them on. What went right? Well, on August the 12th, according to Heafy, number one, despite the presence of firearms, including members of the militia, and angry confrontations between protesters and counter-protesters, no person was shot and no significant property damage had occurred. Number two, emergency personnel did their jobs effectively and treated a large number of people in a short period of time, and police intelligence gathering was thorough. And that's the best he had to say about police. Now, the laundry list of what went wrong is number one, police failed to get input from other law enforcement agencies experienced in handling large protests. Number two, police failed to adequately train their officers in advance of the protests. Number three, city officials failed to request assistance from outside agencies. Four, city council unduly inferred the ignoring legal advice, attempting to move the protesters elsewhere and ignoring the concerns of law enforcement. Number five, the city government failed to inform the public about their plans. Number six, the city officials were misguided in allowing weapons at the protests. Number seven, the police implemented a flawed operational plan that failed to protect public safety. Next, police were provided with riot gear. However, they were never trained in how to use it, nor were they provided with any meaningful field training in how to deal with or de-escalate anticipated violence on the part of the protesters. And next, despite the input and advice of outside counsel, including the Rutherford Institute, the police failed to employ de-escalation tactics or establish clear barriers between warring factions and the protesters. One of the reasons for that, I can speak on that, is because police are not taught how to de-escalate anything. Street cops are taught how to escalate, not de-escalate. All right. However you are responding, they are trained to take it up a notch or two, not to de-escalate. De-escalation tactic training is given to law enforcement inside of the jail and prison industrial complex, not street cops. It's just a fact of life. Government officials and police leadership opted to advance their own agendas at the expense of constitutional rights and public safety. Next, for all intents and purposes, police aided by a stand-down order that endangered the community and paved way for massive civil unrest. That's right, they had a stand-down order. You know, it's funny how those stand-down orders have been instituted for decades now. Remember the stand-down order that came just moments before JFK was shot in the head? And you can see footage of the CIA dude, jumping down off the car and leaving as they went under that tunnel. Yeah, it's amazing what a stand down order can accomplish. But again, we have such short-term memories here in the United States. And last, in failing to protect public safety, police and government officials undermined public faith in the government. But then again, what else is new? What else is new? The Heafy report focused on the events that took place in Charlottesville, Virginia, but it applies to almost every branch of government that fails to serve we the people. As the Pew Research Center released, public trust in the government remains near historic lows, and with good reason too. This isn't America, land of the free, where the government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Oh no, rather, it is America, where fascism, totalitarianism, and militarism go hand in hand. What you smell is the stench of dying republic. Our dying republic. That's right. America is dying 1,000 deaths. It's dying as republic. It's dying financially. It's dying morally. It's dying spiritually. It's dying on every count. It is becoming a failed state in every respect. The American experiment in freedom is failing fast. Though every fault of our own, our apathy, our ignorance, our intolerance, our sheepishness, our disinclination to do the hard work of holding government leaders accountable to the rule of law, our inclination to let politics trump long-standing constitutional principles, we have been reduced to this sorry state of affairs in which we are little more than shackled inmates in a prison operated for the profit of a corporate elite. That's right, we're living in the prison planet. We have been saddled with the wreckage of government at all levels that no longer represents the citizenry, serves the citizenry, or is accountable to the citizenry. That's right. We have corruption at every level of government, state and local government. At the federal level, at the state level, at the city level, there is corruption everywhere. We, the people, are not the masters anymore. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about the federal government, state governments, or local governing bodies. At all ends of the spectrum and every point in between, a shift has taken place. Now, I've been warning you guys for months about major algo shifts taking place. All right? Excuse me. But there's also been a constitutional algo shift. We, the people, are not being seen, heard, or valued. We no longer count for much of anything beyond an occasional electoral vote and as a source of income for the government's ever-burgeoning financial needs. That's right. We are fodder for their experimentation and nothing more. In case you weren't watching, in case you haven't been paying attention, the government does not love you. All right? You need to hear that. You need to know that. A lot of people don't know that. They really think that the government is good. The government would never do that. The government would never do that. You are wrong. You are mistaken. The government would never do that. Why would they do that? It reminds me of that one part of the movie Home Alone. What's that smell? Oh, that's kerosene. The rope is soaked in it. Who would soak a rope in kerosene? And before the next thought could enter their minds to help them figure out the circumstance of what's going on, the rope caught fire. That's right, Kevin set that rope on fire and lit them dudes up. Well, that's where we are at. They would never do that. You don't know what you're talking about. They would never do that. Well, it looks like they have, and they did. They did do that. Yeah, they did that. And they did it right in front of you, and you didn't say nothing. You didn't do nothing about it. What say you? You know what I'm saying? What say you now? because everything happening at the national level is playing out at the local level as well. The violence, the militarization, the intolerance, the lopsided governance, and the uneasy awareness that the citizenry have no say in how their communities are being governed. As I've warned repeatedly, the architects of the police state have every intention of manipulating this outrage for their own purposes. Predictably, the police state is allowing these protests, riots, and looting to devolve into a situation where enough of the voting populace is so desperate for a return to law and order that they will gladly relinquish some of, if not all of their freedoms to achieve it. And that's how the police state will win, no matter which candidates get elected to the White House. And we, the people, will continue to lose. So, what's the answer? What can we do? Do we just bend over and take it? As always, it must start with we, the people. All right? You got to think differently. As Charlottesville made it clear, it's hard to make a difference locally when the local government is as deaf, dumb, and blind to the needs of its constituents as the national government is to its. Charlottesville, much like the rest of the nation, had its fair share of government leaders who were tone deaf, focused on their own aggrandizement, and incapable of prioritizing the needs of their constituents over their own personal and political agendas. Law enforcement officials for whom personal safety, heavy-handed militarized tactics, and power plays trump their duty to serve and protect. Polarized citizens incapable of finding common ground, respecting each other's rights, or agreeing to disagree, and a community held hostage by political correctness, divisive rhetoric, and a growing intolerance for any views that may be unpopular or at odds with the mainstream media's agenda. It was a perfect storm, just waiting for the right conditions to wreak havoc, a precursor of the age, frustration and fear that is erupting all over the country. No matter what forces are manipulating these present riots and violent uprisings, however, there are definitely such forces at play here. None of this would be happening without the government having laid the groundwork. Clearly, it's time to clean house at all levels of government, like I've been stating time and time again and ad nauseum. You got to vote out the bums come November. You got to get every Democrat and every Republican up out of there and replace them with all independents. Now, why am I saying this? Knowing full well that it won't make a difference. Because you see, it doesn't matter who you elect to the office. We're not voting for kings. The shadowy figures behind the scene, the unelected individuals, will still be running the show. I just want to prove it to you because I know no one's going to believe me. So if we vote an independent as president and independents at all the state and local levels, you will see the same thing happening, if not something worse, because it's not they that decide anything. It's the people that get them elected to those positions that you do not see that control things. Make no mistake. All right. Your officials are selected and not elected. And that goes from the president all the way down to your local sheriff. Don't you ever forget it. All right, it's time to clean house at all levels of government. At least that will be a start, because then that will let the shadowy figures. It will force them out of the shadows, and then you'll be able to see who's doing what, and they will see that the people, that all the 50+ years of propaganda, all right, has broken down. It's no longer working. That's why you want to do what I suggested. Put all the independents in office and get every Democrat and Republican out of office, whether they be incumbent or otherwise. Get them out. That's how you smoke out the true hand that is behind everything. That's the only way to smoke them out, is to vote independent on every single ballot. We got to be of one mind. That is the only way to undo what has been done. If we do not do this, you can mark my words, you are living in the end times of the United States of America. It will be overdone, gone, collapsed from within because of all the corruption. Stop tolerating corruption, graft, intolerance, greed, incompetence, ineptitude, militarism, lawlessness, ignorance, brutality, deceit, collusion, copulence, bureaucracy, immorality, depravity, censorship, cruelty, violence, mediocrity, and tyranny. These are all the hallmarks of an institution that is rotten through and through. Stop holding your nose in order to block out the stench of a rotting institution. Stop letting the government and its agents treat you like a servant or a slave. You've got rights. We've all got rights. This is our country. This is our government. No one can take it away from us unless we make it easy for them. All right? The founding fathers gave us a republic if we can keep it. You've got a better chance of making your displeasure seen and felt and heard within your own community. But it will take perseverance and unity and a commitment to finding common ground with your fellow citizens. But the key word is unity. Everyone must be on one accord to do this and make it work. Right now, it's not happening. Stop being an accessory to the murder of the American Republic. Stop being an accessory to the murder of the American Republic. That's what you got to do. People also, what do we need to do? That's what you need to do. Anything short of that, and you're dead in the water. You've already lost. Because people always say, "What can we do?" And I always say nothing, because I know that people are too lazy to do it, and those that want to do it can't, because they can't be heard because their throats have been ripped out. See, that's what you don't know. That's why you're not being heard, because the machine that is against you is too enormous. They control everything. And that mainstream media is such a powerful tool, it drowns out all other voices. They can ignore you, they can marginalize you, they can do all these different things. And you are powerless to stop it. You can't stop it. You can try, but let's be honest. You know it's not going anywhere. So I've given you the tools. I've told you what you can do. And I've told you how to do it. I've given it to you. The question is now, what are you going to do with it? You wanted answers. I gave you answers. The question is, can you handle it? Can you handle it? We'll see, because the clock is ticking. All right? The clock is ticking. If we're going to make a difference, we got to do it now. Not later, but now. Okay? Time is running out. Time is running out. It is getting late in the game. All right? We're in the final inning. You want to turn it around? I just told you what you got to do to turn it around. All right? So don't say, well, what can we do? You need to tell us something. I just told you what to do. The question is, are you going to do it? All right? That's all you got to do is do it. Nothing to it but to do it. And with that being said, remember, you know what it is, PulseWaveTrading.com. You know how we get down. Come break some bread with us. All right? Come learn how to design and build this income stream. You can do it. You don't even have to get off the couch to do it. You don't. We can teach you how to do it, man. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me, anybody can do it if I can do it. All right? It's not that hard. It is not that hard. And remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So please remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I'm out. Peace.